What's up? Titus Bulio, do recon guys poop in bags? Yes, especially snipers. It's not fun. You ever wanted to hold a bag for your buddy while he poops into it? Because it's definitely a two-man effort, if you will. You know, I think the only movie that I've ever seen depict it is Bravo 20. I don't know if you guys have ever seen that. All right. Let's answer some emails. I hear in the winter they pass the poop bag around the warmth. Nope. That's gross. No, you get rid of that. You get rid of that stuff immediately. You bury it, you do something with it. The whole point of pooping in a bag is so you can't leave any trace that you were there. So you usually poop in a bag and then usually bury it. Maledente do Nascimento, what's up? Jennifer, what's going on? How you doing, girl? I would say bom dia, but it's not obviously morning over there. What would you say? Buon notte? CH, what's up, man? Andrew assists. Have you made a Viking vessel? I don't even know what you mean by that. Viking vessel is in what's in my heart, what's in my soul, captain of my soul. Jennifer, of course, I'm a man of my word. Always have to tell a story every time you come on here. Um, I got a fun one for you. All right, so the end of my first deployment, I was so usually when you're on an SF team and you have during like at least the Iraq deployment, people would come in. You were there deployed. You're occupying the team house, but then eventually another SF team comes to replace you. And when you do that, there's a sort of a handover, right? But a general rule of thumb is you always try to make the place better than when you found it. So we were at the end of our tour. We had about 2 weeks before the next SF team was going to come in and take over. And so we were building new barracks for our guards because our team house was out in the middle of nowhere. And we had Kurdish guards who would come down from Kurdistan and they would, spend there, they would live there for a month, and then we would switch them out with more Kurdish guards. So we were building them a new barracks. And we were sitting there, and, what happens when you have too many guys with too many power tools and no supervision? Well, we got a hold of the power, what is that thing called? It's the pneumatic nail puncher thing. Is that what you call it? What is it called? Whatever. The thing where you basically you shoot nails. And obviously, we were building, and then suddenly shenanigans start. You take a break, and now that we're shooting, we're having now target practice. I actually have a video of this. We're tagging target practice of shooting different water bottles, and now we're setting up like competitive ranges where we're actually shooting the nail gun, and we're actually then having competitions. And I was trying to figure out a way, because in order to shoot the nail gun without it being on a nail, you have to pull back the guard. You have to retract the guard, and then you start shooting, and then you can start firing away with a nail gun. Well, it was my turn, and I started in it, and I was going down the different water bottle range, and as I'm shooting, and then suddenly I didn't realize that my finger started to slant over, and then suddenly I shoot a nail, And I was aiming this water bottle, and the nail didn't hit the water bottle. I was like sure that I was going to hit it. I just thought that was weird, and so I stopped, kind of was looking around, and then I looked, and then I had this 6-inch nail sticking out my finger. Luckily, it didn't go through anything but just like the meat of the flesh on the side. I actually have pictures and a video of this. I'll post this one of this. And we took a picture of it, thought it was funny, and luckily we had an 18 Delta right there, and he took it out right then and there. So Jason Lee, hey, thank you for the sub. Yeah, absolutely. You know what's funny? You guys think I'm stupid. I like that. This isn't my first rodeo. I appreciate you, Jason. As much as I want to recite that name, but I appreciate you. I appreciate the try. Eduardo, hey, appreciate you. How did you like working with the Kurds? The best way to describe Kurds are the closest things to Americans in that part of the world. Like, they're extremely patriotic. They share a lot of values that I feel like as Americans, as close as you can in that part of the world, and which is one of the reasons why we would go all the way up to Kurdistan to bring Kurdish guards down to protect our compound, because they're the only people that we could protect, who we could trust in the area. So, yeah, absolutely. It was a yeah. Final boss, I appreciate you. Zayad, thank you, thank you, thank you. Jetstream Jack, you look like you eat cinder blocks for lunch. I believe in taste. I think that's one of the reasons why I kind of struggled with nutrition and diets early on, is because I could never just eat boiled chicken. Actually, I can tell you exactly why I don't eat chicken now this day. So my first two deployments were in fifth group, and they were to the exact same team house. And for both deployments, because we were on FOB, we actually had a cook with us. We actually gave us a regular Army cook, and this guy couldn't cook anything to save his life. Like, he was trained to only cook for like thousands of people, not 12 guys. So we just ended up getting our own food, and we would just cook our own food. And what me and two other guys ended up doing is we just cooked chicken breast. And we did this every single day. And we would have chicken breast, we'd have rice, and then some sort of vegetable, and then I'd eat pineapple. I did this every single day for 2 deployments, total of probably 19 months cumulatively. I ate enough chicken for like maybe 4 people's lifetime. So whenever I'm at a restaurant, I never order chicken, because I've eaten so much chicken in those 2 deployments. It's kind of ridiculous. It's the last thing I'll ever order. Absolutely, Jennifer. I'll make sure to try to have one ready for you next time. Valerio, appreciate you. Jetstream Jack. I know. No, I no, I understand it's a compliment. No, because you gotta be a big boy, Chad, in order to eat some cinder blocks. He talks like The Rock in his IG streams. We're not talking like The Rock now. Are you of Viking lineage? I am of Irish and Norwegian lineage, which is why there's a red beard. That's the Irish. Irish here, blonde here. Even though it's getting darker as I've gotten older, so I'm becoming less blonde. Chris Hemsworth. You know what? If there's anybody to ever be confused with, it would be Chris Hemsworth. That's a beautiful man. And he's a big boy. We're almost the exact same size, but I'm not as pretty as Chris Hemsworth, so I wish I was. But I'm not. All right. So that is a great question. What is up with the bread spam? Well, if the bread spam continues, Mr. Tokomitsu, you're getting banned, bro. So it is 10:43 p.m. So the reason why the stream was late today was because this was our last tournament for the polo season. We actually did. It was actually It was actually the Veterans Cup. So we had four teams play Saturday and Sunday, and today was the culmination of that tournament. So I was the captain of the Army team, and we had to play another team today. And when we were done with that, I went home and put away the horses, and then went over to. I have a friend who's visiting from Germany, and we went over, had dinner, and by the time I was done with dinner, came straight over here, and now we are streaming. So that's why the stream's a little bit later today. So it's nice, as much as I love polo, it's like 6 months every single day, every single weekend. It's kind of a grind, and then when the season is done, because I spend so much time playing polo and working with horses that um, it just takes a lot out of me, and I really don't have as much time for other things as I want to. And so this is good timing now. The fact that I'm retired, and now that the polo season is done, I will have so much more time for making videos and setting up workout programs, because a lot of people have been asking me for workout programs, and we're going to start that process. So. Yeah. Suzuki, you are the first one in this particular chat to say I look like Dexter Morgan. Usually, probably like six or seven the more that come. I'd probably say like the first live I ever did, I got asked if I got told I looked like Dexter Morgan probably at least like 40 different times. How many Rocky Mountain MX Rider? How many years you been playing polo for? So this is my fifth season. So I just completed my fifth season. Um, but nobody in my family was ever into riding. So I'm the first person in my family to ride horses, and then first in my family, obviously, to play polo. And I own my own horses. I own my own truck and trailer that I pull the horses and all that stuff. Yeah. Jennifer, I appreciate you. Thank you for stopping by. I'll have a story for you next time. Yeah, every time we do these chats, there's always a bunch of like bot or accounts or just people who are just trolling. So usually I have like one or two moderators in here, but I don't think they're in here tonight, so might have to do this manually. Jim Leahy, to be honest, I don't really participate in it. Nothing wrong with anybody who does participate in all the free meals or anything like that. I just don't. There's a lot of. I'm kind of lazy when it comes to certain things, and then just finding free meals at restaurants. It's just never been something I make a plan for. Nothing wrong with anybody who does. I have a bunch of friends who do it, but not really my personal thing. And what's funny is, oh, actually, what I got asked to do the other day, actually today, is after I finished riding, I played this match, and then when I got off the horses and I went over and I started talking to people who were in the crowd, I got approached by somebody who does a Civil War reenactment, and they said they're looking for people who apparently look like me, who have horses, to be the Civil War reenactment officers on horseback. So apparently I might be in a Civil War reenactment here soon. So I got asked to do that today. All right, Tokumitsu, I told you, brother. All right. Let's get. All right. Tokumitsu is gone, baby. All right, anyways. Eduardo, once again, I appreciate you. Very nice. What's the best thing about polo? So honestly, the best thing about polo. So mind you, I was an athlete in probably pretty much every American sport that you can think of growing up. I played football, baseball, did wrestling, soccer. Soccer was my best sport. Went to college for it on a scholarship. Everything like that, right? Polo is one. It's like it's a extremely fast contact sport. But anytime that you do anything, like you've played any sport, any sort of team effort, when you do something amazing and you do it with your team, like there's this kind of like awesome thing where like, hey, we did it together, right? When you do anything in polo, you have to understand that you can't do it without the horse wanting to do it, right? So anything you do, I mean, just hitting the ball, going to the ball, riding another horse off, it is you and that horse working together. It's like this symbiotic relationship. So anything you do in polo, you have to understand that you are riding a creature who weighs 5 times more, if not more, is 1,000 pound animal, can do whatever it wants at any point, and if it suddenly decides it doesn't want to listen to you, you're screwed. So you're doing this, you're playing this match, you're playing this sport, and everything you do is together. You have to be in sync. And when you do something amazing and like you get really good, like the bond that you build with these horses is incredible. Like it's amazing. Like I love these horses almost as much as I love my dog. And they all have their own complete independent personalities. They all have moods. They have, you know, sometimes they have bad days, sometimes they have good days, and you can tell when they do because it will come out. They're big girls. All my polo horses are girls, by the way. They're all mares. So yeah, that's also true, Jean-Pierre. Especially during the week, I try to stick to a pretty I I stick to a pretty strict nutritional plan. Like I eat really well during the week. That way, during the weekends, if I'm going to have a day where I don't necessarily fall within those caloric um, ranges, those are the days I do it. So I just try to, for me personally, I just eat very, very strict throughout the week. So them being able to go to free restaurants on, what is it, Tuesday? Not really something I really care for or planning on doing. What are your roots from within that ginger hair? Irish, baby. Yeah, Irish. Some of you guys think you're extremely original with all the broke back comments and you know, honestly, if you guys come up with some witty comments, I'll repeat them. But come up with something better. Hmm. Yes, I did kill the bread man. Sorry. Sorry, I'm not sorry to be honest. All right. So, so I was going to talk about. So one of the things that I'm going to make a video about is why I was not able to post for 6 weeks. So I was involved in an investigation. Essentially, I got put into an investigation about my social media. I wasn't allowed to post for 6 weeks. But because of it, I was actually supposed to retire actually in February because I had an extension. And because the, let's see here, because of this investigation, and I successfully concluded, and they could not find anything that I had done because I had done my due diligence. I knew that anything I talked about was public accessible information. They were still upset about me posting and being on social media. So their last way of saying screw you was for them to essentially not give me that extension, which is why I retired a few weeks ago. So I wasn't originally planning on it, but there's some other crazy stuff that happened within it, and I'm going to make a video about it, and it should be fun. You guys will get a kick out of it, because the people who are involved in this investigation are idiots, and they were trying to act. I basically was able to do what they should have done, like their job, in like 2 minutes that it took them 6 weeks to do, just by going through Google. Like, that's how stupid these people are. But it's also a lesson in the toxic leadership that's in the military, which is also the main reason why you started this channel in the first place, because I wanted to talk about a lot of the stuff in the military, including toxic leadership, because it exists exists on a level way too prevalent than it should be, like you would ever think. But if people who are in the military, you completely understand this. Did you guys ever train with horses in SF? No, we did not. The only people that I know of that did were, like, the horse soldiers, like who went in initially in 2001 to Afghanistan. Those are the only people that I know of that ever did anything with horses. Um, in the Army, there is, well, I think I know the Marines have a pack mule training course where they teach their guys how to do pack mules, but that's the only horses that I know of in the military. The only other horses I know is the caisson platoon, which is it's the mounted horse soldiers who are at Arlington National Cemetery here in Washington D.C. and they still do, for the funerals, they do the horse stuff. So those are the only horses that I know that are within the Army still, and that's it. You know why, Brandon Shields? Because why I call it soccer? Because because I learned to play in Germany and I did call it football. But you know what? This is America, baby. And I'm talking to mostly probably a bunch of Americans. So I'm going to use the colloquialisms that exist within this audience. So if I choose to say soccer or football, it is what it is, baby. Yeah. Brandon Shields, poor man Scotland. Oof. If you're talking about Irish, wouldn't say that to an Irishman. Do you love or like Trump not forcing? Are those my two options? Mr. Nugget. Sarah, I appreciate you, girl. Oh, you guys are so cute. Colonel Mazur, any SFAS tips? Top 3 tips. Be in shape. Uh, but the right type of shape. The right type of shape. Like, for example, be in rucking shape. It's probably because most of the selection you're going to be moving around with a ruck on your back, be moving with weight. 2, have a pretty decent understanding of LavNav. If you don't know how to terrain associate, I would learn how to. And then 3, just have a mental mindset that no matter what happens, you're never going to quit. And because let me think about this. Because you can go through, like, So going through selection is this amazing thing because even if you don't pass, as long as you gave it your best shot, it's going to improve you as a person. You're going to have an amazing character. Like it's going to be a moment in your life that's going to make you into a better person, whether you pass or not. The only way that it's not going to be is if you quit. If you quit, you're going to live with regret your entire life. Like just go through it. Then you just know that no matter what happens, your body is going to fail before your mind. Because you could get injured and stuff like that. But to let that be, never let it be your mind or that you are the one who quit be the reason why you don't pass. And just remember, it's just a moment in time, and the pain will pass. Like these things are designed to suck. So just know that it's going to suck. You're going to want to quit, but you'll never allow yourself to quit. So hope that helped Colonel Mazer. Mohan, where are you from, sir? Originally from Seattle. Well, I actually lived in Germany till I was 13, but that's because my father was in the military. Am I Nordic pagan? No, I am agnostic. hmm Dirt Eater 14. Fellow Irish brother in the house, baby. That's what's up. If you guys spam stuff, you're gone. So, Jean Pierre says, do you plan on flying anymore now that you're retired? And can you talk about how transferable rotary or fixed military aviation is civilian side? So, it depends on what you want to do. So, if you're rotary aviation, you could technically go into commercial rotary aviation, but I'm going to be honest, that's kind of more of a niche job. While your average rotary aviation job outside the military is probably going to pay a little bit more, but the ceiling is lower unless you find a specific guy who you get a really good job with. But those are a little bit harder. Commercial aviation, while you might start your salary probably beginning salary be a little lower, the ceiling is much higher, and especially with the current pilot shortages, you could take your rotary. So how it works is if you have your rotary license, you can actually go and get your private license, but instead of doing 40 hours, it only requires you to do 16. And then once you get your 16, then you have your private pilot license. There's a moth that just flew in here. And so from there, then you could go to the airlines, which is probably like one of the best things you do. And then typically, once you make captain, right? And that could take anywhere up to 10 years, but usually when there's a pilot shortage, it could be like 5 to 7, right? So right now is a really good time to go into commercial aviation, and commercial aviator or captains, mind you, depend. And this all depends on the airline, but roughly you're going to make anywhere between 2 to 300K a year, and you only work. It also is dependent on your routes, like 3, maybe 4 days a week. So it's pretty good money, and it's a pretty good jig. It's a pretty good dig. Wow. Apparently I'm retarded. Got him. Got us, little fucking. Got the moth. That bitch is dead. What are your thoughts on Charlie Kirk? I don't believe in political assassinations. Just because, especially with somebody who is trying to have an open discourse about, because we have such a divisive community country now, and one of the things is people just don't want to hear the other side, and Charlie was one of the few people who was actually trying to have conversations with other people on other sides, and especially was doing it in places where a majority of people had different opinions to him, which is I thought was pretty good, and the fact that he was actually having open dialogues and trying to have conversations. So the fact that he was essentially politically assassinated is a tragedy. And any time in any society when you're having political assassinations, things are not going well. So that's my opinion on it. Like, I don't care if you're left or right, there shouldn't be political assassinations on either side. Hi, this is Hope from Alabama, USA. What's up, Hope? Are you in the... We got another fucking moth. Son of a bitch. 1 second, I'm gonna grab him. Damn it. This is annoying. Anyways, Mohan, are you in the army? Was. Retired now. Chris, what gun did you use? A lot of guns. So, depending on what level you're at, like especially when you get up to the higher levels in the soft community, guns are, they're kind of like tools, right? You bring the right tool for the job. And so you use a lot of different weapons. So depending on the situation or the mission, are you going to be in or outdoors mostly? Are you going to be in a long range fight? Are you going to be indoors mostly? Are you going to be a short range fight? Are you going to be in vehicles? You have to, usually the weapons that you bring are for the mission that you're going on. Like the characteristics of that mission usually dictate what type of weapons that you'll want to bring. Are you going to be breaching? Do you need to bring shotguns? DMRs versus, close combat, short barreled rifles and stuff like that. So there's a lot of guns used, not just one specific one. There's no way they still use horses in the actual military operations. No, they don't. Like, the only time that they did... God, this fucking moth. I'm gonna kill this fucker. Got him! That's 2 down, bitches. Anyways. So yeah, they don't use horses anymore. The only time that... And honestly, that operation with the horse soldiers in 2001 in Afghanistan, that was what they had to deal with, and then they kind of came up with it on the fly. So they don't even train that type of stuff. It would be kind of cool if they did, but to be honest, I was trying to figure out how I could find some situation within horses within the military, but they don't really have it. Larry Cottingham, what are your thoughts to realign Palestine? Well, Hamas is the problem. Do I have any Germanic ancestry? I'm sure I do at one point. I've honestly never done any of the ancestry stuff for 23andMe. Probably should, just so I can see my exact percentages, but I'm pretty sure it's all over. Like most Europeans, like a lot of it's just a big melting pot. Sandwater, can we talk about politics in here, U.S. politics, if you want to? I may or may not have an opinion on certain subjects. All right. Did you ever fly a fighter jet? No, absolutely not. Wish I did. If I could go back in time and do my career slightly differently, flying fighter jets would have been a cool thing to do. Mohan, I appreciate you, brother. Gregory Farrell, how you doing? Is this AI? Dude, if this was AI, I would look so much better. I would look way prettier than this. Will you ever get a buzz cut? No, I would never get a buzz cut. Even when I was in the military, like when I was a private, I would never get a buzz cut. That's stupid. Feb, did other people from your old unit that became public go through being harassed by the military? Apparently, they did. Just like I got harassed, and obviously, I'm going to make a video about this. I basically got harassed because I started doing this, and this might have been a mistake, but that's what I did because I started making these videos while I was still on active duty. They came for me and they tried to harass me. But luckily, I did my due diligence. I knew exactly what could be said, so they couldn't do anything, but they were still pissed off, which is annoying. All right, Johnny. Appleseed, goodbye, brother. Liam Trudel, why did you pick rotary over jets? Because in Army aviation, there are no jets. I didn't have a choice. I did Army aviation. There are no jets in Army aviation. Do aircrafts really hold 50,000 gallons of fuel? I'm sure certain aircraft do. None of the aircraft I was in held 50,000 gallons, but I'm sure there are. You know what? Let's look up a C5 Galaxy. How much fuel does it have? All right, what are your guesses on how much a C5 Galaxy holds as fuel? Fuel capacity, let's do that. C5 Galaxy. C5 Galaxy is the largest aircraft in the United States military. Oh, look at that. 51,150 gallons. So, yes, there are aircraft. There's only one, but actually, you know what? I bet you the refuelers carry that much as well. Yes. It's all right. I got rid of him. Man. You know, usually I have one of my main moderators here is Tejas, and he is not in here tonight, and it fucking shows. Mohan, I appreciate that. I like that haircut. Wow. I have a really big forehead, and it's one of the few haircuts that doesn't make, it helps my forehead not to look so fucking large. K-pop, I like that. What's cooking good looking. I appreciate you. No, I know. Jesus Christ, like I really need to get more moderators in here. This is getting kind of stupid. What is your opinion on the current administration running the US? I think they've done some things well. I think they've done some things not so well. So it's kind of a mixed bag, to be honest. Lift drip, sir, I like your chair. Honestly, I've had a bunch of different gaming chairs, if you will. This is by far the best one, in my personal opinion. Have you ever been in an aircraft carrier, submarine, battleships, or tanks? I've never been on an aircraft carrier, never been on a submarine or battleships because I'm not in the Navy. But I have been in the tank. Are you American, Oz Sizzle? What do you think, baby? You think I'm American? Do I sound American? Or maybe I'm actually like British. Ooh, what if I'm German? I just have a really good American accent. That could be a thing. What do you think, Oz? Aaron Williamson, thank you, brother. Appreciate you. What's your advice for getting into training, in particular with firearms, considering a career in law enforcement? So would mainly be focusing on pistol or rifle. To be honest, the main thing that you need to learn is weapon safety. Um, because one thing that you should never do, like, you should obviously become comfortable with weapons, but you should never lose your fear of them, because it's when you lose your fear of firearms is when accidents happen, when people have negligent discharges and people get hurt and people get shot. Um, so always weapon safety is the biggest, most paramount thing when dealing with weapons. Always. And never relax it. Like, even when you're really good and like really proficient with weapons, never lose your fear of them. Never lose, like, hey, and always, if you don't know if a weapon is loaded or not, just immediately assume it is. And the only way that you know that it's not is if you clear the chamber and you make sure that that magazine is no longer there. You've cleared it, and then if you're not sure again, clear it again. Clear it 3 times. Always be safe. Just overdo safety when it comes to firearms. As far as like shooting, rifles, that's it's not as hard of a skill as pistols are. Like, if you're going to train anything, train pistols. If you're going to put in time to try to get better at your accuracy, do pistols, because it's harder. I heard pistol transfers to rifle, but not the opposite. All right, maybe I'm not reading your question right. What's your advice for someone getting into training with particular firearms, considering a career loss? I would mainly be focusing on your pistol and rifle. No, it's not. It's not that. Oh, okay. I hear pistols transfer to rifle, but not the opposite. No, there's still good fundamentals, but rifle does not require as many fundamentals as the pistol does. The pistol is a harder skill for a number of different reasons, and I could get into that. But if you're good at the pistol, yeah, a lot of the same fundamentals go towards rifle. So I'm just telling you, if you've got time to train on the pistol. Ever shot a 60? Aaron Williamson, what 60? Like an M60? Like an M60 machine gun? Yeah. Awesome Lakem. Michael Milady. Officially retired. How are you spending your time, brother? No kids? No, I don't have any kids. So I spend most of my time, now that I've been retired for a week, um, working on my next career, which is I'm studying for the Series 66, because I'm in the process of becoming a private wealth advisor. And I concentrate on making videos now. And so I'm currently in the process of making a workout video of currently the workouts that I'm doing or were doing, and now all the workouts that I'm currently doing, pros and cons, advantages of working out certain times during, how many times to work out during the week, diminishing returns, and progressive overload training, and how to do it. So that's like what I'm working on. And then eventually after that, I'm gonna start putting up more polls about what subjects people would like me to talk about, what other videos. So, and then polo, but the polo season is now done, so I don't have to do anything more with horses, not really. Um, so yeah. Shelly Kortze. Shelly Kortze, I hope I'm saying that right. Greetings from South Africa. We appreciate you. Farhan. Farhan. Appreciate you. All the way from Pakistan. Farhan, where in Pakistan? I've actually been to Pakistan. Timmy, are you sober? Yeah, I don't really drink that much. I've cut out most alcohol in my life. Harbinger, I've not really had much of an issue with it. It's honestly, it's been the same stiffness. This chair has been the same stiffness. Is Callie making an appearance tonight? Callie. Callie's really tired. Callie. All right. Come here, Callie. Come on, baby. Come on. The people want to see you. Oh. Ooh. Ooh. Sorry. I got you. I got you. Ooh. Come here. This would be easier, baby. I got you. Come here. I had to flip Callie over. Yes. Callie had a long day at Polo today because she always goes with me. Let's move this thing out of the way. So, yeah. So Callie she had her first set of side effects this week from the chemo treatment. She was getting, she got really nauseous the other day, so we had to give her some nausea medication, and but she's feeling better. She's still a little lethargic. She's still a little tired, and she's actually about to get her biggest treatment this week. So she's going to get her biggest chemo treatment on Tuesday, actually. So, how bad is the military haircut they give you? Well, when you join the military, they shave your head. So when you first come in, yeah, it's pretty bad. All right. We're going to let her go back to bed. She's tired. Are you a warrior first or a family man first? Well, I don't have a family, so I guess that solves that answer. But to be honest, you could go so many different ways with this. You can be a warrior in life, and that can cover all manners of things. Are you persistent? Do you battle for what you need in life? Because I don't think you have to be in the military to be a warrior. Yeah. So that's a good question. Yoig DDGV. So yeah, so personally I find the best training, yeah, it's really kind of hard to train with a 22 because they just don't have the same level of recoil that everything else does. But the 9mm is close enough to a 40 or a 45 that you get it, and then it's so much cheaper because obviously 40 caliber and 45 is so expensive, but you just don't get this. I feel the 22 is so far away in recoil that you just don't get the same training out of it. So I would train with 9mm. That's what I train with. Like when I go to train, I take my 9mm. The only reason I even have a 9mm is to train. Schmegma. What was that? Is Schmegma from which Austin Powers? Is it from Goldmember? Gonna miss those Q&As when you get famous? Nah, Jim. We're gonna keep doing this. I don't think we're ever gonna stop doing this. We're always gonna do this. The one thing I still will, once again, because of Polo, wasn't able to do it. I want to have the ability to share my screen, and I don't have that ability yet. So I went through the process. I got a new cable for this camera, and it said it was the proper cable for this camera because I was going to use this camera. One, it's a better quality, so I can put this in here, connects the computer, and then I can share my screen with you guys because I can't really do this on my phone. Unfortunately, the cable, even though it said it was the right cable, it wasn't the right cable. It was the wrong adapter on the other end. So here we go again. Skeleton King, how does it feel to finally be retired for a week? Or were you retired a long time ago in your heart? Yes, the latter. So I have probably been checked out for a while. to be honest. Like ever since when I was in flight school and I went through this really bad like depression, and my father and my sister died all within the same year. And essentially the stuff that happened while I was in flight school, kind of I knew I was done with the military. And so I've really kind of been checked out for the last couple of years. So it's just now it's official, and I could not be more relieved to be gone. Just done with, you know, because even at the highest levels, you still get fucked with. And for what happened at this now very end, all just because people were upset that I was on social media while I was still on active duty, just continues, just reinforces what I already thought. And I know a lot of other people have experienced it, just people who have nothing else better to do with their time. They people have no power in their life, so they, you know, if they can screw with you, they do just because they can. It's really kind of sad. All right. I really think that some of these people really think the sad part is some of these people actually think they're funny, or they're actually going to get a kick out of nobody. Like, so many people make some of the stupidest comments and nobody cares, dude. Like, there's actually people in here with intelligence. And it's just, I feel sorry for you dudes. Um, Daniel Smith. It's Double D, baby. What's going on, brother? Holy shit. Did you work with Nick O'Kelly? I have no idea who Nick Kelly is. But also, you gotta remember the military is really big. Like, for example, when I was in fifth group, I didn't even know anybody outside of my own company, much less my battalion. No, I don't think really anybody in America is homophobic anymore. Only Joe, stay off steroids? Bro, I wish I was on steroids. Shit, if I was on steroids, bro, I would be so much bigger. Man, you guys don't even know. I would be fucking swole as fuck. But unfortunately, I went the natural path and it took me 20 years to build this. Juan, I appreciate that. You know what? It will grow back. Don't you worry. You'll get those luscious locks back. I promise. I had long hair. I had the hair that going down to my shoulders. Um, so when they cut off my luscious locks, it was fine. It grew back. You'll be fine. Be a good experience for you. Did you know of Greg Coker? The name does not ring a bell. Any tips on guys getting stuck between going SF versus SEAL route? And that is a question from our boy, James Mosier. So, James, why don't you type in um, your, what, I guess, what you think are the pros versus cons for SEALs versus SF, and I'll tell you where you're right on it. And just so you know, have no bias between SF or SEALs. Just get in there, tell me what you think are the what is the case, what are the pros and cons versus either one, and I'll chime in on it. Are you gonna do gaming streams? You know what? I have actually thought about this because I do actually like, well, I have not gamed in a while, but I do like to game. I do have this gigantic gaming setup. If you guys want, I can show you real quick. We got all the screens. And I actually have a pretty powerful PC with a high-end graphics card, so you will go to Valhalla. Bro, I can only hope. Plus, I heard there's good times in Valhalla. I heard you gotta do all the good things in life. drinking, the other stuff, you know. Look, if I feel like people were gonna like nowadays create like an afterlife that's like the heaven, I feel like most people would create something that looks more like Valhalla. Randy Thomas, Stoicism is practice, not concerning yourself with what others think. Am I not mistaken? Yeah, it's not what yeah, not concerning what other people think, and then also controlling your mind. Like when things happen, you can control how you react to it. But do you like black people, bro? It's 2025. Who doesn't like black people? You know, especially if you like sports. It's a dumb question. You were on 8-3 the medic. Oh, double D. Holy shit, brother. Dude. You know what's funny? Now that you come in here, do you remember uh do you remember the cyst and what you had to do every single week? And do you remember what you used to say right before you were about to get on the call? With your you were on a video call with your wife, and I would come up for the day. I think it was the daily procedure when I had that cyst. To see if you remember what you used to. Oh yeah, yeah, no, makes sense. Yeah, hey, tell me if you remember what you used to say to your wife whenever I would come up ready to get the treatment for that cyst. Nick Kelly was an SF guy that went to SOAR. How come it is for SF to go to 160? So when I went through warrant officer school, there was only in my class, there was only one SF guy, and we became very quick friends. He came from seventh group. I came from a tier one unit, and yeah, we became quick friends. Thank you, Michael. Appreciate you. What type of games would you stream? So the type of games that I have played, I would say in the last year, the games that I played Escape from Tarkov. I Boulder's Gate. I like those type of games. I also play the occasional strategy game, but I definitely have done a bunch of extraction games. Ooh, Dark. I did do Dark and Darker for a little bit, and then I know everybody's all about Arc Raiders recently. So, but I got too much work I got to do, too much videos. I got to get finished studying for my next job. I just don't know if I'm going to find the time just yet, but it would be cool because I do like games. It'd be fun. Dan, you you used to always you're just like, hey, I got to go pack Joe's ass. Now, are you married? No, I'm not. I've actually never been married. Mohan, you're a black belt and gold medalist in martial art, in karate. Well, good for you, brother. That's what I'm talking about. Battlefield is greater than everything else right now. Well, so I know a lot of my friends that I used to play with, and I only know this because on one of my screens, I always have my Discord up. And so my friends, even though I'm not playing, I can tell that what they're playing. And most people were playing Battlefield 6, but I know most people right now are playing Arc Raiders. We'll see how long that lasts. Dan, dude, that's awesome, man. Those are good times. Good times, brother. White girl or black ones? Bro, they're all pink on the inside anyways. It'll make a difference. I'm sorry that you're not married. You seem like a good daddy. There's so many ways I could go with that comment right now. Like, I don't know how PG you want to make this stream. I may not. Well, mind you, there's not any children that I know of, right? There could be some floating around there. If there are some floating around there, they'd probably actually be in Africa, randomly enough. Skeleton Gang, what is your next career field looking into? It's actually going into private wealth advising. I'm going into private wealth management. If you guys know anything about the private wealth world, it's about managing money for essentially the uber wealthy. I have like a random runny nose right now, and it's really annoying me. You live in Samoa? Well, fuck yeah, Elijah. We appreciate you, brother. Whatever you do, play War Thunder at your own risk. Well, considering actually War Thunder is nowhere near as toxic. You know what? I forgot to tell you guys. I definitely play probably the most toxic game I believe in the world is. Actually, in the comments. So we'll go with that. One of the games that I do play is one of the most toxic games in the world. And I want you guys to guess what I think that is. Or what you guys think is the most toxic game in the world. Hit me with it. Call of Duty? Nope. I don't think it's that toxic. No, I'm talking about like really, like it is a game that is known for toxic. All right. If anybody's ever played League of Legends. Yes, Jim, there you go. Got it. Fucking League of Legends, baby. That's the most toxic game in the world. Skeleton Gig, what made you think about wealth management? Is it more security side or number side? So I originally never thought about doing wealth management until one of my really good friends who's in wealth management brought it up as like, hey, this is something that you might be really good at, because he's like, you're a very personal person. You like to talk to people. You're very gregarious. You have a lot of cool stories. And that will actually help you when it comes to building rapport with people who are extremely wealthy. And so when you first start in the business, you usually join a team. And when you join a team, you usually join a team of like already experienced advisors. But when you first join the team, your job is sales. Your job is to go get new accounts. And it's kind of in its own way, an elite, probably one of the more elite jobs within the financial world. It's kind of a dog eat dog world, because when you join, usually you'll join through some brokerage like Morgan Stanley or something like that, and then you'll get your initial salary of like $100,000, right? And then you have like 2 to 3 years to get enough clients to replace your salary, because after the first year, they actually start taking your salary away little by little. And if you have not attained enough accounts to basically make enough money to live by, then this career is not meant for you and you should go on. So it's one of the things I like about it, because it's kind of hard like that. Oh, and the other part to it is that of private wealth management, it's especially, you obviously have to work your ass off for the first couple of years, especially on the sales side of things. But once you get that and you get enough accounts, everybody I know who's in private wealth management, their work to life ratio is probably one of the best that I've ever seen of any career. Jim, what did you main? Okay, so this is this is the funny part. I feel like when most people start League, they will get, all the roles that they do. Very few people ever main jungle, and I mained jungle from like within like 5 days of like I because I tried out a couple like top laners, but then I tried Warwick in the jungle, and I was a jungle main ever since. What's your favorite racing games? Honestly, the only racing games I've actually ever played was the Gran Turismo games. Do you speak any other languages, Nor? I actually speak Persian Farsi. All right. Mohan, you're an accountant and a black belt in karate, bro? You're dangerous, dude. How did you go out and find a customer? Well, you have to like be in circles where people have that type of money. So that's actually one of the advantages of being in this polo community is that you're surrounded by a lot of very successful and affluent people. So that's one good place to start. But yeah, you kind of have to be in areas or be in places that other people like that who have that level of money, and then you're there, you have to build a rapport, build a relationship, and you have to it's a sales, and they're like, hey, if you come to us, we can take care of you better, we can give you better returns. All right, James. Well, I've always wanted to be sealed, but the fear of failure and op tempo just doesn't seem worth it anymore. It seems like SF really gets after it and more confident in completing SFAS. So I don't know if there's a difference really in the op tempo. Um, Not that I know of. I've never really heard of it. Um, Maybe if Daniel's still in here, he might be able to chime in on this. But uh, I would say that um, there is an issue. So, okay, here's one problem with doing the SEALs. When you join the SEALs, your contract, if you don't pass buds, you get put to the needs of the Navy, right? Are you actually? I think you actually have to. Oh no, no, can correct me if I'm wrong. You actually can. You have to pick another job, right? And you can still go to buds, but if you fail, you then default to that job. And the problem is the Navy, there's no other job that has like guns. You want to get in and do that type of stuff. So you're going to end up going to do some other job that you don't want to do. At least with SFAS and you go the 18 series route, you would default to or you would fall to becoming like an 11 Bravo. So that's kind of still within that realm of like that combat using guns and stuff like that. So that's like one disadvantage of the SEALs that if you don't make buds, you're going to go to some job that doesn't involve weapons or guns. I would say what would people do for work if there was suddenly no internet? I don't know. I don't mean to poke about the podcast, but any day when it's coming out. Also, I think you'd be great on Vanguard podcast. I think the host was from Orange. Let's look it up. Let's look up Vanguard podcast. And let's see if is Van oh, so it's a financial podcast. Who does this? Vanguard podcasts. Sorry. Yeah, I can't tell. I'll come back to it later. Gran Turismo online lobbies get pretty toxic. I haven't played a what are the latest Gran Turismo games? I haven't played one in like over a decade. Whiskey T Fox. I wasn't in Delta. Why not get into real estate? Well, I've been into real estate. And I will. So I did always do real estate as sort of a side gig, and then eventually I will again. But that's not really focused. And to be honest, this is not even the best time to get into real estate, to be honest, right now. Svengali, how did you manage to keep your hair from falling out? Finasteride. Again, I don't know why I'm struggling to say that word tonight. So if you met a rare wealthy person by accident in a bar just chatting, how would you mention that you do what you could help them? Well, obviously you would eventually in the conversation be like, "Hey, do you have any sort of financial management?" And then if you do, then you would talk to them about it and ask them, are they satisfied with what they, with the certain current management that they have? And then you would just kind of go down that route, kind of feeling, you know, understanding what their wants, what their desires, what they're looking for, what their goals are financially. And then, and then you can be like, hey, I really think that we could do a better job of doing that for you. Why don't you give us a shot? You know, so it's something like that. Did you know Jesse Cinco? Um, no. EOD has guns. Yeah, well, technically, everybody in the Navy can have a gun, but that's not their main role, and it's not their main role in EOD either. SWIC has guns too. Yeah, SWIC it does have guns, but SWIC is um, it's a soft unit actually. It's a good question. I actually don't even. Can you get a SWIC contract for first joining the Navy? I actually don't know the answer to that question. Can you go SWIC directly from enlistment in the Navy? No, you cannot directly go from enlistment. Wait, no. I think I misunderstood the question. Yeah, it completely misunderstood the question. Oh, that's why. Because it fucking dropped my thing. All right. We're going to answer this question. Oh, I guess you can. Yes, you can directly enlist as SWIC through a SWIC challenge program. Oh, so I believe it's the same way as buds, though. If you fail, you get pushed down to another job. Yeah, you can do that. Yeah, so it's up to you. So I guess the better thing to do is understand what is the difference between the mission, because the what the SEALs mission versus what the SF mission is very different. Like SEALs do more of like your direct action type of stuff. SF does more. It does unconventional warfare. It's different. So you kind of have to think about what you would want to be doing, what type of missions you would be doing in theory if you were to go on missions. Okay, Vanguard Military Podcast. All right, let me look this up. All right, so it says that I looked this up. This said there's multiple Vanguard military podcasts. Like there's multiple ones. There's the Vanguard podcast, there's the Project Vanguard podcast, and there's the Vanguard Wall podcast. Vanguard Wall podcast. Which one is it? Yeah, there's 3 different ones that come up. Gran Turismo is the most recent one. It's really good. Because I always like one of the coolest, and I don't know if other racing games, but I always love the part about Gran Turismo where you start out with like the really crappy car, and then you have to do the really kind of shitty races, and you just slowly upgrade your car, gets better and better, and then you shoot for that like next big car that you want to buy. When did it come out? Ooh, March 4th, 2022. So it's available for PlayStation 4, PlayStation consoles. See, I wish it was available for the computer because if it was available for the computer, I would play it. That's a Whiskey T Fox. What tier were you in? I was within tier one. Vanguard Wall podcast. Okay. Let's look this up. Because we're trying to figure out if I know the person from this podcast. VanguardWall.com. Sorry, I'm trying to figure out who's in this. Do you have a name? Okay. Who does it? I don't know. I don't want to dive too deep into this. Joe Lucius, what's up, brother? His intro, he talks about his history. All right, well, I'm going to watch it later. I wish I could share this guys with you. Actually, let's do this now. Let's see if he... You said it's at the, he gives his history at the beginning. Oh, I think I clicked on the wrong one. Let's try this again.
We've been hitting targets in Fallujah and Ramat. There's another guy that we're looking for. Triangle. 10 that morning, we cranked up, I was running out of the top.
I don't see an intro, but I'll watch this later. The host of the show, I don't recognize him personally, so I don't know. It doesn't mean that he wasn't there. James Moyer, appreciate you. Definitely leaning towards SF, please. They got more diverse if I want to go for those jobs. Any insider tips? Honestly, just worry about passing SFAS. Gamer Gap, what's up? What's this stream about? We're just talking about Q&A. About life, about how to be the best person you can be, stoicism, philosophy, military stuff, passing selections, anything you might want to do. Yeah, I just looked it up. Yeah, it's the SWIC challenge contract. So, which makes sense. It's kind of like, it's very similar to the Buds contract, it looks like. Yeah. So, Daniel's right on the money. Yeah, I feel like Daniel, are you still in? Because I know our other boy Dan is still in. Well, he's in the guard now, but he's doing the RSO stuff. Oh, okay, you retired 6 years ago. Yeah. So Daniel puts up a point like, unless there's an actual like conflict going on, you're going to be doing a lot of, unfortunately, a lot of J sets, and when you're going to be doing a lot of FID missions. But there's also kind of like dependent on what's actually going on. But you're probably, unfortunately, I feel like your op tempo between that and like the stuff that you probably want to do is going to be in the SEALs, but I feel like you do get a more rounded, and Daniel can agree or not agree about the fact that you have your Bravos, your Charlies, your Deltas, your Echoes, with all the cross training that they do, that you probably get more well rounded of the type of jobs and skills that you can learn on the teams. But I think a lot of people are looking for in what's going on in SOF or either SEALs or SF, you're probably looking more towards the SEALs. I knew a guy that couldn't pass a dive phase because of getting pneumonia, but went to SWIC. It's really interesting. So when I was doing my free fall jump master course at DevGuru, when I was there, they in my free fall jump master class, we had frogmen or your SEAL Team 6 assaulters, but we also had SWIC guys, and it was really interesting to see how toxic the relationship between the SWIC guys and the frogmen or your SEAL Team 6 assaulters. As like one of the most surprising things, that was like they hated each other. That was really interesting. People come in here and spam the dumbest shit, I swear to God. What tier 1 group are you in the activity? Yes. Whiskey T Fox, that is the one. Yes. Question is it ever going to be on PC? Like, is Gran Turismo always going to be PlayStation exclusive, or is it ever going to come over to PC? Because I don't want to buy a PlayStation just for one game. Would you say you're at peace with yourself? Yes. When I stepped away, when I left the soft community, and after like 13 years, when I left in 2018 or going in 2019 to be when I dropped my warrant packet to go off to warrant officer school, I was very at peace with my decision, and I still am. Can you break down unconventional warfare? So you got to think about it's essentially like, think about obviously there's different layers of this, but one of is the concept of what they used to do in Vietnam, which is they would go behind enemy lines, they would make contact with the locals, like the mountain yards, and they would train them, and they would sort of create their own like a little militia or their own army, and then they would conduct strikes and doing missions and basically screwing up them, doing missions against the enemy behind enemy lines with essentially these forces that they have trained up. And so that's kind of like the main portion of unconventional warfare. So like when like guys like Dan and everybody who were in Iraq, one of their main jobs was to train especially like the Iraqi police SWAT guys, or so maybe the Iraqi special operations guys, and they would help to, and also known as force multipliers. So you train these guys to help you, and then we would take them on missions, and then especially before 2009 they were there, but then after 2009 when we changed the SOFA agreement and we had to start doing bilateral operations where the Iraqis had to start going on the missions with us, and I think actually they had to be the first ones in the door. So, which obviously complicated stuff, but it is what it is. Why did the U.S. lie about fighting Osama? I don't know what you mean. Osiris. Yeah, there's a lot of people. Usually, the loudest person in the room is like, especially someone who's anybody who claims that they're badass is not a badass. It's the person who's in the room who's like the quiet one. Like there's this concept where the most quiet man is always the most dangerous man in the room, and I honestly I believe it. Hey bud, were you in wrestling by chance? I actually wrestled all the way into high school. I wrestled all the way from elementary school to high school, and I actually really enjoyed it. And I was just having a conversation about this the other day, but I actually think if I was ever to have a kid, one of the sports I would make sure that they get into is wrestling because I feel like it's a great introduction to combat sports, and also it teaches you like controlled aggression. Young men die in old men's war. Yeah, there's some truth to that. Are you transitioning? Don't even know what you mean. Yeah, yeah, exactly, Dan. Why do I look so tired? Because it's fucking midnight, and I've been up since 6 o'clock this morning because I had to get up and I had to go get the horses, and I had to get to this match, and I had to get everything. I had to get Callie all her medicine, everything to good to go. You could play the old Gran Turismo via an emulator PC. That would be fun, actually. I don't even remember which ones I was playing back in the day. It would be sick to see you play Arma. You should watch dudes that play the helicopter pilot and do backflip infills. I've seen what some of these people can do on Arma and in the helicopters, and I'm gonna be honest, it's pretty impressive because I would never ever even try to attempt that in a real helicopter. So that shit's crazy. All right, you guys are. All right. What are we at? We're at an hour and a half. Did you work or meet Nick Lavery? I did not. The name doesn't sound right. But mind you, I was there from 2010 to 2018. I appreciate you, James. Thank you. Thank you for all your questions, and then thank you for not being a douchebag like some of these other people. Gene, I appreciate that. I will take that as a compliment. What does human flesh do? You guys are so stupid. I'm Ryan. What's your stream about? So usually every Sunday we get on here and we talk about life, philosophy, stoicism, and obviously I just got out. I just retired from the military for 20 years, and in there I was a tier 1 operator. Was in SAW special operations in general for 13 years, and I then from there I left to become drop my warrant packet, become Black Hawk pilot, and then so I just recently retired, and now we're just trying to do value added content, life lessons, what people have learned, and if I can lend any sort of advice that will help people to deal with stuff, and even all the way down to like dealing with depression, especially for men in hyper-masculine communities and stuff like that. So Ryan, I hope that answers your question of at least some of the things that we talk about in here. Tell us a selection story. Um, ooh, we're getting towards 15%. Um, oof. Let me think. I have to think about this. To tell a selection story without giving away stuff I'm not supposed to talk about, anyways. Um, I think I already gave a bit of a selection story on a previous video about, I spoke about when I was in, so when you go to the short walk or orange selection, if you will, the first week of selection is you're doing interviews. And then in there, you obviously take some PT tests and you do stuff with CI people. And then while you're doing that, one of the days, probably was like the third or the fourth day, I got pulled in for, because you get pulled in for multiple interviews, for mostly CI interviews. But while I was there, you were allowed to bring some books because they know there's going to be some downtime that first week while you're sort of, this is sort of like an in processing week, but because you have to pass this portion in order to go on to the main part of selection. And while I was there, I got pulled into an interview, which I knew I was going to be part of. And the guy starts asking me, like, hey, are you reading any books? And I start talking about, like, because I'd brought like 3 books. And I was like, oh, I brought a couple books. And he's like, well, what books did you read? And I was like, well, I brought like The Mission, The Men in Me, and these other books. And he's like, what are these other books? And the fact that he was already kind of like really focusing in on what some of these other books, I knew that there was a guy, because you're in like a little bit of a barracks while you're during this in processing phase, and there, just that earlier that day, or it was the night before, there was a guy who's sitting next to me who was like asking me about, because he saw me reading, and I was reading this book called Killer Elite, and he was like, oh, what is this book about? And obviously, this at the time, this was like 2010. This book was, as far as I knew, the only book that was written about this unit that we were going to selection for. So I brought it with me because I wanted to finish reading it. Maybe there's some insights into selection about it. Who knows, right? So now I'm in this interview, and this guy's really asking about what book I'm reading. And I'm really trying to go, like, avoid it. But you can obviously tell because he won't let it go. He knows. And this dude, I learned out later, this is exactly what happened. He talked about in his interview because they asked him, like, oh, do you know anything about the unit? He's like, oh, well, my bunkmate is, he's reading this book called Killer Elite. Little bitch fucking ratted me out. Whatever. So he's asking me, he's like, so what's this other book? And I'm like, I don't know, this book called Killer Elite. And he's like, what's that book about? And I'm like, well, supposedly it's about this unit. And he's like, and he looks me like dead in my eye, and he's like, do you think that's a good idea that you're reading here? And I'm immediately like, wait, is there something in this book that I'm not supposed to know? So I'm like, should I be reading it in here? He's like, and I'm like, what are they trying to protect? And he's like, yeah, I don't think that's a good idea for you to bring to read that book while you're here. I was like, well, can I be honest with you? Wouldn't you, if you were trying out for a unit, wouldn't you want to know as much as you could, or at least read as much material and information, literary works on the unit you're supposedly joining? And he kind of looks at me. He's like, yeah, I really don't think you should read that book while you're here. And so I was like, holy shit. So I got out of the interview and I was like, there is something that these people do not want me to read in this book. So I immediately go back, even though I promised I wouldn't read it. I grabbed that book, and I was about halfway through it when I went into that interview. I finished that book. I've never read so fast. And I finished the book, and I immediately slammed it down on the ground. And I was so pissed off because there was nothing in that book that had anything to do with selection. And to be honest, Killer Elite is an extremely dry, boring book. And it was, to me, it was honestly useless. So that's a selection story. Nick Lavery was in third group, lost his leg to PKM. He was active, 7 feet tall, and he did a podcast with Sean Ryan. Yeah, to be honest, I have not watched that many Sean Ryan episodes. I've seen a couple, right? Like my favorite one is actually with Jordan Peterson, and I've watched a couple. The one, not the Timu CIA guy, but the other one, the one who he's like the white guy with the glasses. I watched his episode with Sean Ryan. I actually really like him. I think that was like that one CIA guy. That dude's kind of legit. Thank you. Appreciate you. El Burrito, my man is Chisel. Not gonna lie. Well, I appreciate you, El Burrito. Thank you, baby. You're joining the army soon. When are you leaving? Have you ever heard of Brian Scoggins? Xavier, what's up? Best financial advice? Invest your money. You look like the man who could lead a Celtic army against the Romans. Well, I appreciate that. So now that I'm retired, I can fully grow out my beard, because usually I'd grow it out to like as much as I could in like 4 or 5 days before I had to go back to work. But now I get to grow it out fully, which I'm not exactly sure how long I'm going to grow it. And also I can grow my hair out. So I got to figure out what hairstyles and what beard styles I want to do. You know, life is hard. Do you know of anyone that commutes from out of state to Pacific Guard SF group? Yes, there's actually a lot of people do that, because there's not an SF team in every single state. So actually a lot of people do stuff out of state, and you can do that. You can, like, if you live in another state that doesn't have an SF, you can still join the National Guard of that adjacent state that has it, and then you can still live in the other state. I'm just trying to get through all this stuff that you guys are talking about. There's rats even at tier 1 selections. All right. What was the name of the book? Killer Elite? Yes. And in 2010, I think that was like, at the time, that was the only book that I knew of around that 10. Obviously, there's been more books since then. You know, it's funny, when I was in the unit, the one book that actually I read, what is the book by the Naylor guy? What is it called? Oh, Relentless Strike. I learned more about my unit from reading the book Relentless Strike than I knew about it when I was in it. So there's a chapter about the unit in that book. If you really want to know what goes on, read that book. Have you ever struggled? Let me read this properly. Marcus Iverson, have you ever struggled with social anxiety, and how would you overcome it? Absolutely. I feel like everybody has struggles with some sort of social anxiety. And to be honest, the only way that you can get better at dealing with social anxiety is by putting yourself in situations where you have to do things that cause your social anxiety. You know, whether it's speaking in front of people, or maybe going up and talking to a girl or somebody that you're attracted to that might be in a slightly not great situation, but you're going to go and do it anyways. That's something I do, and it's definitely helped me. And to be honest, I've probably gotten social anxiety posting these videos and doing these lives, because it always still feels a little cringe to me. And I still like the fact that I'm here talking to the camera. I actually don't even like the sound of my own voice. And one of the bad parts about doing all this, but doing lives and doing these videos, because I have to come in here, I have to edit, and I have to listen to my voice, and it's so fucking cringe. But you know what? We do it, and it's gotten easier. It has gotten better since I started doing this, and with anything, just repetition, repetition, do it. Make yourself be put in those situations, and you'll get better at them. And I believe that social anxiety is one of them. You can definitely get better at it. How do you deal with PTSD? You know, uh, that's not an easy question because it affects people in different ways. How I deal with it is mental framing. You know, I think everybody sees bad stuff and bad stuff happens to them, and it's all about how do you frame it? How do you look at it? And I think that's a big part of it. Like, do you let it control you? Do you let it haunt your thoughts? Or do you be like, hey, this is why I was there, this is why I did it. It happened, learn from it, move on, you know? So obviously it's easier said than done, and everybody has different types of PTSD, everybody deals in different ways. So that's just how I personally deal with it, and it's worked for me. It's just is mental framing and not dwelling on it and just moving on. Yeah, exactly. Either the Timo CIA guy, the one with the really fucking long hair, the one who went on, I forget what show, but he was like, he's the one who got fucking shit on for what did he say? He's like Ranger Delta Force. He's like, these are like the most elite guys, Ranger Delta Force. I think that's what we call it, and he's got shit on just because obviously the dude doesn't know what he's fucking talking about. Grow a mullet. You know what's funny is there's a lot of people, especially professional like NFL players, who are growing mullets, and it's working for them. Should you go with your heart, your brain when choosing a selection route? Heart says regiment, but brain says National Guard SF. I also fear in a few years I may regret, and my heart will then wish I went SF. So, Xavier, why? So my when people are asking me should I go regular Army SF or should I go National Guard SF, the main defining factor is, do you have an idea of what you want to do in the civilian world? Because National Guard as SF is awesome if you have a civilian job, or at least you know what you want to do on the civilian side of things. And then the National Guard SF thing is just a huge plus to your life. You get to do that SF life on top of your civilian job. But if you don't have a civilian career, or you know what you want to do, you can't survive financially on National Guard SF. So that's your first and foremost. And then two, Rangers, I would say, is a really good experience. But especially if you want to go Delta one day, my recommendation would be go Rangers. Then go to Delta is a better stepping stone than SF is. Rangers is a better stepping stone to Delta than SF is to Delta. My personal opinion. And actually, I think a lot of people share that opinion. Suga White, what's up, baby? Where you been hiding? Suga White. I read that they were recruiting for OSS when they were looking for Princeton graduates that could win bar fights. Do you think that is still an accurate stereotype of the type of SF needs? Possibly in a way. You're always definitely looking for, yeah, I would say so. To make it for as far to use a generalization, is you definitely want intelligent people, but you also want people who are not afraid to get into a fight. You want people who are tough, but also intelligent. You know, yeah. What's the favorite state you visited? Oof, that's kind of hard. I think I like multiple states for different things. of all the places that I have lived since I've been in the military, whether it's Fort Lewis up in Washington State, um, Fort Campbell, Kentucky, even some of the spots down in Florida, whether Destin, Florida, Pensacola, Florida, um, with some other places I've been. I actually really like the Washington, D.C. area. The only thing that I don't particularly, well, I guess the shitty part about this area is just humidity. But other than that, you actually get, this whole place gets multiple seasons. I like being near D.C. for politics and that just type of environment. And yeah, it's super easy flight to Europe. Does the activity actually jump in or dive or more of getting schools from budget? So there is some dive stuff. They definitely do jumping. They're really big on jumping. Really big in the free fall stuff. Yeah. Appreciate that, Daniel. Appreciate you, Double D. Have you read Discipline Destiny? If not, so what'd you think? Let me double check exactly which book that is. My quick answer is no, that I've not read Discipline Destiny. Oh, it's by this guy. Interesting. I remember seeing this dude, Ryan Holiday. Compelling case for cultivating self-discipline, willpower, and focus by learning from history, works of figures. Oh, I like this. Okay, so it incorporates history. It's really cool because it's very similar to a kind of another style of book called Hannibal and Me, which is a book that incorporates like historical figures to kind of like illustrate the point that because that book is about how to look at the way we view success differently, and it's like the two main archetypes of success in that book is this one who comes to success really early in their life and then kind of falls off versus someone who gradually goes up to it and then usually has a much longer, more successful life anyways. So it's very similar in that style. So this actually looks interesting. I like this suggestion. I'm going to actually add it to my book list. Discipline is Destiny by Ron Holiday. Bro, you got a good voice, no homo. Skeleton King, I appreciate you, brother. You know who's got a good voice? Fucking Dan in here, Double D. That bro, that's got he's got a sexy ass accent. He makes all the ladies cream with that stuff. His voice is so sexy that I'm pretty sure his wives are crazy because of how sexy his voice is, or his ex-wives, I guess. I'm sure he does. Yeah, TJ Delta Rangers. That's right. That's what he said. Our little CIA Timu motherfucker. What is his name? See, you know what? I'm gonna type in CI Timu and see if it comes up. Or no, okay, maybe it's the Timu CIA. Oh, that's no fun. Yeah, I found it. Okay, so I typed in Timu CIA Delta Ranger, and it's the first thing that came up. Timu Jason Board, that's what it's called. Oh, that's right, because it was on Valhalla VF2. That's funny. Andrew Bustmante. Yeah, Andrew Bustmante. That's his name. I love that. Timu Jason Bourne, that's what it was called. Xavier, I appreciate that. I really do. Honestly, this is honestly the most enjoyable part. And you guys honestly make it worth it because when I came home, I had no desire to go live. Absolutely not. And I was just like, it's one of those things. It's consistency. It's discipline. We made a plan. We're gonna do it, and here we are. And the best part about doing this stuff is like talking to you guys and just answering questions. Doing some more of just discourse between each other because you guys have just as much to share as I do, and that's the community that I would like to help build or help facilitate is probably a better word. Yeah, Sugar White. So I'm trying to start these at 8 p.m. every single night, but obviously I didn't start this one until 10:30 because I have a friend who's visiting from Germany, and we went and had dinner, or one of our friends cooked us all dinner. So I missed what's the longest you've gone without eating while serving? Uh, Probably in SEER school. When I was in SEER school, I think I went like 3 or 4 days without eating. Maybe 5. I really honestly I can't remember. Gargo Joggins, how's your dog? Sorry if someone has asked already. I just got here. No, 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 it's all good. So she's actually doing pretty well. She actually did have some side effects this week. She got was Callie was nauseous. So I came home the other night and she was actually kind of struggling to walk around. It's like she was kind of drunk, and it took me a couple seconds to realize that she was probably nauseous. So they actually give you nausea uh, medication for nausea. And so I gave it to her, and then probably the next day or within a couple of hours, she felt better. But she's definitely been kind of lethargic the last like 2 days. And, but she's going in for her biggest chemo treatment on Tuesday. It'll be the biggest one because it's the 4th week, and they're going to hit her. It's going to be the big, yeah, so they're going to hit her really hard with the highest dosage of chemo. So I appreciate you asking, though, Gakko Joggins. You look like David Sterling. Wait, what is the name so earlier? David Sterling. British Army officer. British. Is it because we both have giant noses? Because that's the first thing I look up when I see this dude, is a giant nose. And I know I have a giant snoz. Oh man, look at this unibrow on this dude. I don't have a unibrow, do I? Born. Sugar White, I appreciate you. Hey, Suga, I was actually meant to do this earlier. I'm going to make you a moderator. Born to be model, forced to stream on YouTube. Ain't that the truth, GW Wealth? Or G Wealth? Appreciate you guys. How's the traffic in DC? Not great, but it's definitely worse than All right, Double D. Hey, appreciate you, brother. It's always nice to see one of the guys from our 5th group days. I appreciate you, brother. I heard Handle Me is extremely good. Yeah, I really liked it. American Vikings don't exist. Are you also 7 feet tall? No, I'm 6'2". Are you a Marine? Nah. Does TFO have direct action missions set, or is it all just intel stuff? Andrew Bustamane. No, they do actually have a direct. They have a tactical detachment, and they do some direct action stuff. And I actually was in the tactical detachment. Jason Lee, I think you already tried this, brother. Are you military now? Well, I was. I just retired a week ago. Have you ever shot a gun? Maybe once or twice. Cool story, brother. Cool story. Bro, who doesn't enjoy Second Amendment activities? Man, I thought I shaved my unibrow. Man, well, I'll get it next time. What's your discount code for barbell? Also, how pissed was your unit when they found out you got a sponsor? I bet they were sour. Bro, Skeleton, it's funny because they were very salty about, like, especially when I started to gain traction. That's when somebody from my old unit basically made a complaint to Army CID that I'd released classified information, which obviously I didn't, which is I'd done my due diligence. And they're just fucking petty as fuck. It's actually kind of fucking hilarious. So, oh, but back to your question. So, Stephen Gang or Skeleton Gang, we actually don't have discount codes right now, at least not right now. So, if you were ever to buy anything from Barbell, what you need to do is when you're checking out, it's going to ask how you heard about us. Just say Stoic Viking. So, unfortunately, that's the system that they have in for the Barbell athletes. Fab, you better watch out. I'm gonna make you a mod if you don't calm down that attitude, brother. No, but seriously, Fab, you want to be a mod? What is the thing you are most looking forward to now that you're retired? Honestly, just because I was already doing other stuff to basically be ready for retirement, all these other things that I wanted to do, but the military would still find a way to like inconvenience the stuff that I was trying to do. Like obviously I still had to go to work, but even outside of that, like just the random stuff that they do in addition, it just always an inconvenience, always the worst time. And now that I one don't have to answer to any of the stupid bullshit anymore, and I can just go and do whatever I want, and I have nobody can tell me otherwise. Like it's an amazing feeling. Like the fact that my day is only my day. I nobody else who has horrible leadership, bad, toxic, leadership tendencies. The fact that I cannot be fucked with anymore is amazing. Have you been to Australia? Actually, Imogen, that's actually one of the few places I have not been, and it is on my like it's probably like top 5 places I want to go. Is there a lot of pettiness in tier 2 and tier 1? There seems like it. Yeah, there definitely can be for whatever reason. So actually I can tell you, so I won't tell you his name, but recently a guy who's a Delta Force guy made a comment on one of my videos. And he's a guy, I'm pretty sure he was on the Sean Ryan show. So let me just double check that. And I'd seen his stuff before, right? Yeah. So a Delta Force operator who's pretty decent, and he was on the Sean Ryan show, came in and commented on one of my videos. And it was a clip, and it was a clip about someone had asked me in one of the previous lives about if was ISA was it was like which intel organizations were better. Was CAG Intel Squadron and DevGru Intel Squadrons as good as ISA? And obviously ISA's main focus is to be the intel organization of the tier 1. And I was like, hey, this is a controversial take, but I actually think that Delta's Intel Squadron is actually better than ISA, right? And so, mind you, that Delta does not really, like, whenever we would show up and we would give a capabilities brief about our unit, nobody in Delta knew what we were talking about. Like, they didn't know anything about the unit. So, for this one particular Delta operator to come into my thing, and then he said that about this video, I'm actually giving props because I'm actually saying Delta's Intel Squadron is better than ISA, or at least more effective. He was like, you don't know what you're talking about. What did he say? He said, you don't know what you're talking about. He's like, you're not smart. Stop talking. Thank you. Right. And I was just like, one, this guy has no idea who I was, right? And he's never been in ISA, so he wouldn't know. So luckily, I didn't delete his comment or anything. I actually left it there, but I actually reached out to him in direct message to be like, hey, you know, do it was I was like, hey man, this is just my experience. If you had a different experience, I'm happy to discuss it. Never heard from him. And to be honest, I was really disappointed in the fact that this guy who, as far as I could tell, seemed like a pretty decent dude, and that was his comment. Like, that's how like an 8-year-old talks. To be honest, I was really disappointed. Yeah, absolutely skeleton gang. But I actually plan to make a video about it because what they did was so stupid. It's honestly going to make for great content on it. You guys are gonna love, especially what happened in the end, because I made them look so stupid. And in their response to the last little thing that I did is comical. Honestly, you guys are really gonna like it. I think it's probably, if I had to predict if I'm about to make a video that's gonna go viral, it's gonna be the video talking about this investigation and what they did, and then what I did. What's the percentage of guys in SF that get divorced while in group? I don't know the exact number, but let's look it up. Divorce rates in special forces. Okay, so I'm looking at a couple different rates. If you guys are still in here, what do you think? Let's go off of Suga White's question. What do you guys think is the divorce rate? It's a percentage between 1 and 100 of what's the divorce rate of special operations? Or no, I put in special forces, but we can do special operations too. What do you guys think it is? Hold on a second. Let me grab my charger before this thing dies. All right, we're charged back in. Was the Delta guy that dropped his initials BT? No, it was not. Not BT. Sugu, whose initials are BT? No, TJ was not. It was not Kyle Morgan. It was the dude's actually kind of like a big dude and kind of looks like a fucking ogre. Actually, kind of like looks like Lurch to me. Yeah, Suga, if you see people like one spamming comments or just saying yeah, especially spamming comments and saying weird shit, feel free to remove them. Yeah. Which is unfortunate because, like, look, and I have had this conversation with a bunch of other SF guys, especially creators. As far as we know, obviously there's other ISA guys who have written books and stuff. I'm the only one who's like an actual creator on YouTube now. So I'm one of the few people who know, but because I was in the tactical detachment, my job was working with with Delta and DevGru. So I'm one of the few people who has the unique knowledge of actually, I know the three, I have intimate, I know the insides workings. I'm pretty intimate, I have pretty intimate knowledge with those three tier one units, which most of the guys, they only know about the tier one unit they were in. But because I was in the tactical detachment at ISA, I know about all three. No, it was not. It was not Trek. It was not our old sheriff of. Was he? What was he? The sheriff of Baghdad? Was it Tony Crowden? No, it was not Tony Crowden. All right. If you guys want to know, it was actually it was Chris Van Sant who sent me a message. Jim got the magic stick. What's up, brother? Yeah, to be honest, I thought it too. It was just such a weird comment. And it's his it was a message sent on Instagram. It was a comment, and it's funny because I don't know if you guys are they're doing trial reels. You can do trial reels on Instagram, and I did a trial reel about the one clip about which intel organization was better. And one, it's me complimenting Delta, and for him to come in with such a like rude kind of comment, I was just honestly kind of just expected better. Why can't we have in this community have a discourse? This dude doesn't know me. I believe that he did, but the thing is, he doesn't. But here I am, which I know the fact he doesn't really know anything about ISA because nobody does, and I'm complimenting and saying that they're better. So, yeah. But like I said, I actually reached out instead of like responding with a petty message. I actually reached out. I sent him a direct message like, hey man, this is just my experience. If you have any sort of different experience, I would love to discuss it. But no response. So, people want to just sit here and just shit on each other. That's cool. It's not my gig. I know, right? I don't know, maybe. I was hoping that he'd eventually respond to my message. I'd check it right now, but to see, well, obviously, to see if he's even read it, but whatever. I don't care. I know what I've done. I know what I'm doing. And the funny part is, I'm like basically complimenting them. That's also the funniest part. But whatever. Let them. As Mel Robbins would say, let them. Don't give a fuck. Yeah, don't drink and gram. It's funny a guy can be a Delta and not man enough to respond to demotic and shit. Yeah. I don't know. It was just such a. It was funny because obviously I remember his name, and then I remember getting the notification that I had a comment from Chris Van Sant, and I was like, oh, cool, until I read it. It was like, that was a funny moment. Mm. Yeah. No, absolutely. He's look like everybody, and there could be, and obviously, it was a clip about my perception about something, right? And maybe he has a different perception. But for him to be, I want to say, what were the words? It was you I think he said your information is wrong. You don't know what you're talking about. You're not smart. Stop talking. Thank you. I'm like, yeah. He's, I think that's the exact quote. Do you ever feel imposter syndrome at any point in your career? Absolutely. Imposter syndrome is a big thing. Like, oof, like I feel like if you're at the forefront of like doing something amazing, you never feel like you're good enough. And I get imposter syndrome all the time. I think probably like most of my career. It's kind of crazy if you really think about it. So it's super common. You just have to understand that that's the way you're going to feel, and you just continue to work at it until you get that stack of undeniable proof that's who you say you are, who you say you are. You know, just keep training. And the fact that I think it's actually also a good mindset that you have imposter syndrome, because it means that you never feel that you're good enough, which means you're going to keep going at it. You're going to keep going. All right. It is 12:46. I think it is about that time. Unless you guys have any last minute questions. So, Devil Doc. So I'll tell you what was the perception. So when I joined, so I went to selection in 2010. I remember sitting there at fifth group having a conversation with the SF guys on the ODA that I was on, and they were talking about, like, for when you're done as a Green Beret, like when you're leaving SF, you basically had two routes, which was you either went to green or you went to orange, which is either Delta or ISA. And at that time, there was so limited knowledge about what was going on and because everybody knew what Delta was, right? But nobody knew what this other organization was. And I remember them discussing, and this is the first time I'd ever heard about it. Like, I had just gotten to fifth group. I was brand new, and I didn't know. I just thought like SF was the top, right? And here they are talking about, like, okay, Delta, but then they're talking about this other organization. And the way they talked about it, they had such little information about it back then. This was like 2008, or 2000, it might have been 2007. I forget. No, it was definitely at least 2008. I think no, it was either late 2007 or early 2008. And basically what it was if you wanted to be John Rambo, you went to Delta. If you wanted to be James Bond or Jason Bourne, you went to ISA. So that was kind of like, that was like the view, and the what little and what limited information they had at the time. So that was it's kind of funny, because that's what the perception was. And like anything in the military, right? Like even at Delta, like things sound like amazing, but then like it's actually not. Nothing's as cool as you think it is. So there is some stuff in there like that, but it's like most things in the military, even at the tier one level, it's not quite as cool as you think it is. Do I have a sick pack? A sick pack? It's a sick pack, bro. You trying to say six packs? Yeah. So, all right, everybody. Well, I think it is time for me to call it a night. Working in a unit full back seven people sounds cool. That is one of the issues that they have, because It is an intelligence focused organization. Unfortunately, in my experience, with intelligence focused organizations, there's a lot of backstabbing. So, appreciate your time, Suga. Thank you for helping to moderate since our boy Tejas could not be here tonight. And I appreciate you, Soul Level. And anyways, I will talk to you guys later.